we're going to talk about the structure of the California bar exam and what exactly you should expect on each day of the exam. So to begin with, the California bar exam is a 2-day exam. You may have heard or you may hear that it's a 3-day exam. It was a 3-day exam up until 2017. In that year, they switched from a 3-day exam to a 2-day exam. So from 2017 forward, the California bar exam you can expect to be a 2-day exam. It's offered on the last Tuesday and Wednesday of February and July. So it's offered twice a year, and it's always offered at that same time. The California bar exam consists of 2 parts, the written portion of the exam and the multiple choice or MBE portion of the exam. MBE stands for Multi-State Bar Exam. So whenever you hear about the MBE portion of the exam, they're referring to the multiple choice portion. A few things to be aware of with regard to the California bar exam. California is not a uniform bar exam state. Many states have adopted the uniform bar exam, which is a national test, meaning that every state that offers the uniform bar exam is offering the exact same test. California writes their own bar exam. They have not adopted the uniform bar exam, so California has a state-specific exam. The written portion of the California bar exam is written by the California Board of Law Examiners. So this is the state-specific component. Now the multiple choice portion or the MBE portion of the exam, that is actually a national exam. That is written by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. And even though California is a state-specific exam, they're actually offering the exact same multiple choice portion or MBE portion as every other jurisdiction administering the bar exam. So everyone in the country, California included, takes the same multiple choice portion. California just writes its own written portion. They write their own essays. The California bar exam is scored on a 2,000 point scale. The MBE portion of the exam is worth 1,000 points, and the written portion of the exam is worth 1,000 points. So each portion is exactly half of your score. You don't have to get a minimum score on either portion. So you don't have to get a certain multiple choice score. You don't have to get a certain essay score. What they do is they take an overall score. So if multiple choice questions aren't your strong suit, but you're really good at writing, you can make up for a weak multiple choice score with a higher written score. In California, a passing score is a 1390, 1,390 out of 2,000. This was adjusted for the fall 2020 bar exam. Prior to that date, the passing score was a 1440. So California has recently changed their passing score for their bar exam. But notice that this works out to about 69.5%. So you don't have to get an A on the bar exam. You can pass with a 69.5%. You're looking for a 1390 out of 2,000. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about what to expect on each day of the bar exam. So the first day of the bar exam, so that would be Tuesday, is the written portion of the exam. So the written portion of the exam consists of 5 essay questions and 1 performance test. A performance test is some sort of lawyerly task where the bar examiners give you a hypothetical fact pattern. For instance, they may tell you that you're an attorney at a firm and you are required to write a memo to your senior attorney regarding a particular set of facts. They also give you a particular hypothetical library to work off of. So this is considered a lawyerly task. You don't have to bring any outside knowledge to the performance test. They give you everything you need. So this is testing things like your time management, your writing ability, how well you organize, your arguments, things like that. We'll talk more in detail about that performance test in future courses. The essay portion of the exam consists of 5 essay questions. Now, these essay questions can test either general law or California law. And in California, there are some patterns that we've seen with regard to when you should expect to see California law tested. We'll talk more about this in specific videos as we discuss some of the more nuanced issues regarding the subjects that are tested on the California bar exam. But for instance, subjects like community property, wills, and trusts generally, not always, but generally test California law, while topics such as torts, criminal law, and real property almost always test general law. So you don't need to know California specifics for an essay on one of those topics. There are a couple subjects, this would be things like evidence, civil procedure, professional responsibility, where they actually test both general law and California law. And at some point, you even want to discuss both within an essay. So as I said, we'll talk more about that in future videos, when to be aware of California law and when it's sufficient to just discuss general law. As far as the timing of this written portion, the written portion is divided into a morning session and an afternoon session. The morning session is 3 hours, and you'll have 3 essay questions during that morning session. The afternoon session is 3.5 hours, and during the afternoon session, you get 2 more essays and the performance test. So if you're breaking this down, that means you have about an hour per essay, and then about 90 minutes for the performance test. Now, they don't break down for you and make you stop every hour and move on to the next essay. They simply give you a 3-hour time block, and it's up to you to watch the clock and make sure that you are moving on from one essay to the next one during the appropriate times. So there are 14 subjects that could potentially be tested on those essays. We're going to take a look at this chart. As far as scoring goes, each essay is scored out of 100 points. So the bar examiners will give you a score, and the score ranges from 40 to 100. You can get a 0 for not answering the question whatsoever, but as long as some answer is provided, the minimum score they will give is a 40. And you're generally looking for a score of about 65 to get you to that score, that overall score that you need to achieve a passing performance on the California bar exam. Now, this may seem a little counterintuitive because there are 5 essays, that's 500 points, and the performance test is worth 200 points. So we're at a total of 700 raw points for the written portion of the exam. And I told you a couple minutes ago that the written portion is worth 1,000 points. Well, what they do is they scale your written score. So they do give you a raw score out of 700, but then they scale that pursuant to an undisclosed formula. They don't tell us how they come to the calculation, but they'll scale it to put it on a 1,000 point scale so that it is the equivalent of the MBE portion of the exam. So this chart, which we will talk about in more detail in future videos, but the reason I wanted to talk about it here is because this chart illustrates the subjects that are testable on the California essays. So you can see down the left side of the chart the different subjects that could come up on an essay. Now, there are only 5 essays, and you'll notice there's about 14 topics here. So not every topic is tested every administration. And if you follow the topic across the chart, you can see the instances in which it was tested. So agency and partnership, for instance, was tested in February 2010, July 2010. It was tested in February 2012, February 2013, February 2015. It's not always tested, but you can start to see some patterns occurring here. You'll notice the colored X's on the chart. The colored X's reflect instances where there was more than one subject tested in a particular essay. So this is a common thing that we see the California bar examiners do. It allows them to incorporate more subjects on the written portion of the exam. So for instance, in July 2019, they tested constitutional law, and that particular essay question also tested remedies. So those 2 subjects were incorporated into one essay topic. Again, we'll talk about more of the patterns that we see here in a future video. Moving on to MBE day, or the multiple choice portion of the exam. This is the second day of the exam. So this would be Wednesday. You'll take the MBE portion of the exam. Because the MBE is a national test, it is not written by California. It's written by the National Conference of Bar Examiners. The majority law is applied. So whatever the general law or the common law is, that always applies to the multiple choice portion. You would never apply California's specific laws to this portion of the test. This portion of the test consists of 200 multiple choice questions, and you will get 6 hours to complete this. So they break it down into a 3-hour session in the morning where you will complete 100 questions and a 3-hour session in the afternoon where you'll complete another 100 questions. Now, of these 200 questions, only 175 of them are scored. And if you look at the next bullet point, there are 7 subjects tested on the multiple choice portion of the bar exam: civil procedure, constitutional law, contracts and sales, that's considered one subject for purposes of the MBE, criminal law and criminal procedure, again considered one subject, evidence, torts, and real property. You get 25 questions on each of these 7 topics. So if you multiply 25 by 7, that comes out to 175. So what about those final 25 questions? The final 25 questions could come from any of those 7 subjects, but they are test questions. In other words, they won't be scored and they don't count toward your score. What the National Conference of Bar Examiners is trying to do is evaluate whether the questions are good enough to be used as scored questions on future exams. They want to see how people perform on those test questions. So they don't count toward your score, but we don't know which questions are test questions. They're simply mixed into the exam. So it's important to answer every single question like it's a real question, but just know that when they come up with the score, there's only 175 questions that are actually being scored. The MBE is also scaled according to an undisclosed formula. The National Conference of Bar Examiners actually scores the MBE portion of the exam. Even though each state administers the test, the NCBE collects the MBE data and comes up with the scale each administration. It can change from one administration to the next, but generally speaking, what we've seen is that approximately 65% correct will get you a passing score. So as you're practicing your MBE questions, you want to think about trying to aim for a 65%.